Provide your definitions of special needs and inclusion. Describe your experience, if any, with students with special needs. This can include professional, volunteer, or personal experience. I would define special needs as physical, mental, or emotional difficulties that in this context students experience in a classroom setting that are different than other students around them. I would define inclusion as an educational approach that allows students of all abilities to be in one classroom and learn together, rather than separate classrooms based on their special needs. My first practicum was in a special needs classroom. I was placed in a PLP class, which is a program for students who have low IQs as well as other learning difficulties. I learned how to adapt lessons to each student's different learning needs and how to teach on a level that all students could understand and learn from. How would you provide support for a student with a reading disability in an elementary classroom of 20 to 25 students? In my classroom, I'd use the Daily 5 Literacy Program. This program would allow students of all reading abilities to choose a skill to work on in their reading level. It also allows for individual and small group teaching time. If I had a student with a reading disability in my classroom, I would use this program and use the small group or individual teaching times to work with this child, as well as work with other students. I would also be in communication with the parents and ask them to help with the reading in the evenings. In the classroom, I would get the student to use audiobooks or read and write goals on occasion to hear how the book sounds when read properly in its entirety, and then give them the opportunity to read it themselves to improve their reading ability. Let's say you have a student that you suspect has ADHD in your class. How would you go about addressing your concerns with the student's parents? Before even addressing the parents, I begin to write down situations in which the student displayed ADHD-type behaviors. I would also start to collect samples of student work that shows them not following the instructions because they weren't listening, finishing their work quickly because they wanted to move on to something else, or whatever the other behaviors the student was displaying that led me to suspect that they had ADHD. Having strong evidence when talking to a parent will make your case for their child much stronger than bland statements will. Throughout this process, I'll be talking with the principal, and I'll have the principal do some observations of their own. Once I feel that I have enough specific examples of the student's behavior, I would call the parents and ask them to come into the school to meet with myself and the principal. The most important thing I would remember when meeting with the parents would be to talk about their child respectfully and make sure that they know that there isn't anything wrong with their child. Their child just experiences learning difficulties that can be overcome with strategies and support. When addressing the parents, I would try and use a sandwich type approach, surrounding the child's struggle, in this case ADHD, with positive things about the student so that the parents wouldn't feel like I think their child is a bad student. I would also include that I had learning difficulties when I was in elementary school, but with support from teachers, I was able to learn strategies and be very successful in my school life, obviously making it through university and now becoming a teacher. So just because their child has ADHD or any other learning difficulties doesn't mean that they can't be successful. Describe your approach to making academic accommodations for students with disabilities. Academic accommodations are to be put in place to help students with areas they struggle in and to create an environment that fosters success for an individual. In my classroom, I would make academic accommodations that will support my students, but not distract them from the learning around them. I would use the recommendations from the psych report and from past teachers, if they are available to me. If not, I would have to use my own observations from the classroom to see which academic accommodations I think would best fit the student. I would sit down carefully and look at each student's needs and then carefully design the academic accommodations I would give them. As we go through the accommodations, I would make notes and see if they're working, and if the accommodations aren't working for the student, then I need to sit down and reevaluate what accommodations I've given them and start looking into other accommodations that will then make that student successful. Each student's accommodations would be individual to their needs, so I cannot speak directly to the exact accommodations that I would be using. At a parent-teacher interview, a parent suggests that you spend too much time with students with special needs in your classroom and feel that you are not providing full support to their child. How would you respond to this parent? Firstly, I think I would thank the parent for addressing their concerns with me. If a parent is open to conversation with the teacher, that is beneficial to everyone involved because improvements and changes can be made. Next, I would explain to parents that I do my best to help all students who need it. When we have a work period, I'm always available to help students, whether they're coded and have an IPP or not. I would tell the parents that I have 2 checklists. One is a basic checklist that is based on visual cues for my students about the emotions they are displaying as they walk into the classroom and throughout the day, how well they are getting along with other students and other adults in the school, and how well they appear to be staying on task throughout the day. This checklist would be completed for every student every day. My other checklist would be done with each student over a 2-day period. It would not be reasonable to talk to every student every day, but every other day would be reasonable, to check in and see their understanding of the lessons, and also ask them about their emotions and anything else that I feel I should ask them about if I see anything else. I would also like to tell all parents that if they have concerns about their child and any struggles their child may have, I'm easily reachable by email and will gladly do what I can to help all students in my classroom succeed, whether that be meeting in the morning, before class, or even during lunchtime. I'm always available by email, by phone, and I want to help every student in my class succeed. That's super, super important to me.